The shocking truth behind the Peter Laviolette firing has been revealed as Chris Drury has officially spoken out on his decision. And we're also going to break down who will be the Rangers' next head coach, as we have some insight on that and the future of this position moving forward. We're going to break it all down on this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers as we head into a very busy offseason in terms of player personnel, and of course, now we're looking for a new head coach and who that might be, and it might be closer to home than you realize. It's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. You get to stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. Now, let's dive right into it officially. I know my last video, I dropped it like as soon as he was actually fired with reports from before he was fired, but now it is official. Peter Laviolette has officially been relieved of his duties as head coach of the New York Rangers by Chris Drury this morning. There was reports this morning from Vince Mercogliano that we went over in that last video that suggested that the team wanted to wait till after this weekend. And I thought that was a classy gesture. You know, there's a bit of respect in there. That's what I said in the last video. And like this organization has done all season, not the case. So the skate, as expected, has dropped. And this is from Larry Brooks, of course. The Rangers have dismissed Peter Laviolette. Plus, which we haven't talked about yet, associate coach Phil Housley. Now, Larry Brooks and a bunch of other insiders, we're going to get to it in a second, has been told that Michael Pekka and Dan Muse will have the opportunity to interview to remain on staff. Now, there's some conflicting reports with this because, as we'll get to in a minute, as you can see here from Colin Stevenson, associate coaches Michael Pekka and Dan Muse will get a chance to interview for the job, a source said. So from Larry Brooks, again, this is the first tweet that came out about any of this from Larry Brooks. They will interview to remain on staff versus they will interview for the job. So I'm wondering if they're going to interview them and see, do they stay on staff or do they take the head coach position? Now, Michael Pekka, I think it's an interesting choice. I do agree, by the way, I have to say, with A, the firing of Peter Laviolette, and B, the firing of Phil Housley. Time to clear that out. That was done. I think next in line is Chris Drury, that's for sure. And I think all of you, I don't want to speak for all Rangers fans, but I think a lot of people would agree with that. But I do believe that it was time to clean that out. And I think that there is some conflicting messaging between those two tweets, at least. So it's going to be very interesting. And there was a great article here just a couple minutes ago at this point from Remy Mastry on Here's More on Peter Laviolette's firing and what Chris Drury had to say on the matter. So we can dive into that right now. Chris Drury had some comments. He's officially spoken out on firing Peter Laviolette. And he said, "Today I informed Peter Laviolette and Phil Housley that we're making a coaching change. I want to thank them both and wish them and their families all the best moving forward. Peter is first class all the way, I should say, both professionally and personally. And I am truly grateful for his passion and dedication to the Rangers in his time as head coach." Now, as expected, this is pretty much as cookie cutter as you can get from Chris Drury in terms of relieving a head coach of his duties, all the stuff that you normally see. But he also had another quote on why Peter Laviolette and Phil Housley were relieved of their duties. And he went on to say that after finishing with the best regular season record in the NHL just a year ago and making a trip to the Eastern Conference Final, we came into this season with high expectations for ourselves. Quite simply, we failed to meet those expectations. We must all do better, myself included, as we head into next season and beyond. I felt that a change was necessary in order to give us the best chance to achieve our goals as an organization. Our search for a new head coach will begin immediately. And like we saw with these tweets earlier as well from Colin Stevenson and Larry Brooks, that is going to start immediately with Mike Pekka and Dan Muse. And then as you know, some other insiders like Frank Saravalli have reported as well, the search will be quote unquote wide ranging. So Michael Pekka and Dan Muse will have the opportunity to interview to remain on the coaching staff. So that is very different from interviewing for the job. So I'm going to go with what the majority of the reports are saying, and that they will have interviews and exit interviews this season to remain on staff before they fire both of them. But clearly Peter Laviolette and Phil Housley, they didn't like what was going on with them. So, and again, a lot of people are blaming Chris Drury, and they're saying that Chris Drury was the first one, that he should have been the first one to go, first one to be fired. While that could be true, right? I think that Chris Drury was trying to build a certain type of team with some of the moves that he was making this season. And Peter Laviolette is not the guy to usher in the future of this team because they're getting a lot younger. You got guys like Brennan Othman who are barely playing under Peter Laviolette who are going to be the future of this team. Brett Berard, Gabe Perreault, guys like that. They're not going to play under Peter Laviolette. They're not going to learn at the NHL level under a coach who does not know how to utilize younger, skilled players. It's just not going to happen. So they decided to move on from him. I agree with it at this point. All season I was saying Laviolette's not going to get fired. You're not going to get your way. But now that I saw what he was doing with the younger players towards the end of the season, no brainer for me because that's the direction that the team is going. And I think Chris Drury is bringing in a lot of good pieces. I do. They haven't stuck together yet, but I wonder what a new coach can do with them and how a lot of these guys will rebound next summer, especially if Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider are moved off of. I just wonder how this team can do, and it's going to be interesting to watch. And I think that if they do fail again next season, right, and it's an absolute disaster similar to this season, then yes, it's Chris Drury. He's done. It's over. There's no more experimenting with stuff for Chris Drury. Now, from Dom, I thought this was interesting as well. The Rangers need a coach who can establish a system and a culture that everyone buys into consistently, not just 1 year in and 1 year out. That is Peter Laviolette to a T, by the way, not just with the New York Rangers, with every single team he's been with. Now, they need a culture that can handle drama and not wilt at the first sign of it. And I think that was a big factor this season as well. I mean, the first sign of any type of adversity, anything that was out there that got leaked to the media, it was just like the team collapsed in on itself. It was horrible to watch. And he went on to say they need to surround that coach with players who fit what they want to do, or find a coach who can adjust to what they have. That's the biggest thing for me. Peter Laviolette was, again, not the guy who was going to usher in this new era of Rangers hockey with a lot of the younger guys on this team. And he just doesn't know how to utilize guys like Brett Berard. He doesn't. We saw it. It didn't happen. So all of these things can be right at the same time. And I thought there was another really good point here about, this other Twitter user saying that, look at John Cooper, Jared Bednar, Paul Maurice with their respective teams, right? And what they've been able to create in terms of cultivating a culture. We haven't seen that with the New York Rangers. They need something like that if they want to win a Stanley Cup. So I think they have a fantastic opportunity in front of them right now. And that is pretty much all the fallout that came from Peter Laviolette officially being fired, and obviously the social team with the send-off and everything like that. But pretty interesting stuff that, Mike Pekka and Dan Muse will stay on, or they will interview to stay on staff. And of course, a lot of interesting remarks there from Chris Drury in terms of why this happened, and the coaching search will be quote unquote wide ranging. So let me know in the comments who you want as Rangers head coach. I'm going to make another video. It might not be today. I'm going to make another video kind of breaking down who it's looking like it might be. And there's two coaches in particular I've heard rumors about already, and it's starting to gain some traction, especially today. So I'm going to make a couple more videos on that. And let me know in the comments who you would want as Rangers head coach and who you think those videos are going to be about, because I think everybody has an idea who one is, and it's a little scary. It's a little scary, but we will get to that. But let me know in the comments what you think about everything that's happened and all the fallout from firing Peter Laviolette, what you think of the firing itself. Phil Housley also being let go. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.